Okay, welcome everybody to the Jupyter Frontends weekly team meeting. Today is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. And I think we are 8 minutes past the hour, so folks have had a chance to add their notes to the agenda. So without further ado, let's we have quite a few things. So Andrei, can you start? Oh, maybe they're not here. I'm gonna move this down later and focus on the people who are in the meeting. So let's move to Mike.
Okay, hello. I hope you can hear me well. I'm not on my usual setup. So the first item is about JupyterLab LSP/JupyterLSP. And it's coming back to a discussion from exactly 4 years ago, which is there was a new discussion in the governance repo, because Jupyter now has an enterprise account on GitHub, and the idea is to bring all the repositories or the organizations under like a single management to simplify things, especially related to security. And although we already had these discussions a couple of times, Jupyter LSP was never formally acknowledged as a part of Jupyter Project Jupyter. Even though there was a JEP where it was voted on and it was accepted, and Jupyter is meant to follow the LSP integration pathway, the organization itself, despite being created, renamed, and inviting the owners of Project Jupyter, there was no formal decision. And under the new governance model, which since developed, it seems that the proper way to do that would be to either propose that as a new sub-project or for an existing project to adopt Jupyter LSP as an additional organization within the same governance structure. So in the same way as Jupyter frontends currently have JupyterLab and node organization and notebook repository and NP Classic, I guess, there would be an additional organization for Jupyter LSP. And this is preferred by me when it comes to like maintenance burden compared to splitting the repositories so that they go to different organizations. So that's a heads up slash an announcement, and I guess we'll just move to a vote soon. Because yes, the original issue was open 4 years ago, so I think unless someone has comments or questions, I will, or Jeremy in free time, feel free to, like, or anyone else, start the vote. So assuming that there is no comments, I just wanted to give you all a heads up that I plan to release a new alpha for 4.3 today. And on an unrelated note, there will be a security advisory published on extension tutorial. I think we should publish it soon. I will explain the details after the recording, but that's just like a formality. I think that it is pretty clear what the problem is from all the pull requests that were recently made. And a follow-up question also related to that is in the tutorial, I've made a pull request which upgrades it to the latest extension extension template, I should have said. So that visitor will be an extension template. And I'm not quite sure whether I should merge this pull request or whether we should follow the a bit longer procedure of regenerating the tutorial repository as we do during releases. So anyone who did that previously and can think of any implications, if you could let me know on the pull request. I think Frederick and Eric, based on the commit messages, were the last people to touch the tutorial. So that's it from me.
Thanks, Mike. About the tutorial, I don't know so much. Like, normally we should go through the process, like, to be sure. But somehow.
Can you say that last part again about the tutorial?
Okay, so the tutorial repo is not a typical repo in the sense that it doesn't have a history. Like when we make changes.
You're talking about Jupyter examples?
No, about the APOD. So previously it was a comic of the day. Currently it's
APOD.
astronomy picture of the day. So instead of pushing new comments, we are basically erasing the history so that every commit in the repository corresponds to a step in the tutorial. And the question is, do we have to do that? Is it better to do that, or for when we are not making a release, but just patching the template to fix some issue? Or should we follow the steps of regenerating the tutorial with the Git history and overwrite the
I don't really think
4.0 version?
I don't think it's necessary to keep historical versions of the example. I think just making sure that it tracks with the current version of the tutorial, I think, is all we should really do. And it really increases the complexity of changing the APOD example repo. It makes it much more complex and more difficult and annoying to maintain if we keep trying to keep historical versions. So yeah, I think it would simplify the maintenance, make it easier.
If I remember correctly, the reason it is like this is because in the tutorial there are a few Git commands, I think, that are mentioned, and I think it's just for someone going through the tutorial to look at the APOD repo and see the exact same commit. I think that's the only reason.
Okay,
like
so
if you look at the tutorial, like in the beginning, there is a section that says commit what you have to Git. There is the Git command did commit with a seed APOD project from extension template message, and I guess someone looking at the repo could just say, okay, this is where I am now, and then they see the next commits, and each of the commits does something, like special, like either it's adding a new feature or fixing an issue. I think that's the only reason why. But I agree that's for us maintainers, it's a bit adding quite a bit of maintenance, right? Because then they have to go through everything again and then make sure that we are rebasing correctly and then force pushing again to the.
So I do not have a problem with doing that. I can do that, and we can automate that if it's not automated. My concern right now is if I were to do it, I would be pushing to an existing branch which is called 4.0. Would that break something for anyone? Because the changes are like extend beyond they actually modify the contents as well to make sure that it matches the extension template.
I mean, I think the easy thing to do would just be to put a warning on the tutorial that says the repository reflects the latest version. Because I don't know if it's worth trying to automate it or doing all this extra maintenance, because it's kind of I feel like we are better spending our efforts elsewhere because there's so much already to do elsewhere.
Okay. Thanks for the thoughts, and yeah, we can continue the discussion on the pull request, or I will probably open a new one.
Thanks. I just have a quick announcement for y'all, which is that as of today, the 2 Team Compass votes in front ends and in accessibility to merge the 2 meetings into this weekly meeting. They've been open for a week, and so I'll today tag anyone who hasn't voted yet, but I believe we have a simple majority and then some on both the votes for a yes. So I'll do what I can to give everyone a chance to vote and get counted towards their number of votes for the year. But unless anyone objects to a simple majority passing, I think we're at passing in both councils. And I'm happy to go back into what it is that I'm talking about if anyone here needs a bit more context. Okay, thanks everyone.
So I guess I'm next. Thanks, Eddie. So let's try some demo. It's opening. So I just wanted to give you some feedback about the work of the Google Summer of Code contributors, and one of the element that has been changed is, like in one PR, is the use of a tree view from the toolkit. So if I share the screen like this, I hope everybody can see the screen.
Yep.
Thanks. So what is changing is the subpanel here in the running tab. There are no using the tree view, even those that are not tree view, like just a list, but it's 3 item, because is the way we do it, things in this panel. Each subpanel is using the same logic. So what it adds, it adds navigation with keyboard. In some places, we also add like in the debugger, in addition to having the keyboard navigation, what we have added. So I'm using the keyboard right now. What we have added is that you can, maybe I should bring the text one. You can, by pressing enter, just do the same, like opening the detail of a variable. So that's the kind of thing we have added in the same PR. Okay, we had a hard time to restore that feature done by Mike using just CSS, but we did it. It was hard. Yeah, basically that's what we have done in that PR. It's ready for review for people that want to provide also feedback. Also on there is slight changes for the look and feel. You can see that the focus is changing in the document. So you can see that now like the indicator in the table of content is a bit like smaller, but the full item is gray. Here again, so now the talk is fully keyboard navigable, so you can just navigate everything, press enter, navigate the document, keeping the thing in the table of content, what was not possible before. So I think for accessibility, it's a good point. The question that remains is how to reach that point from when you land on the page, but that's a question for another time. Yeah, that's about it on that PR. Don't hesitate to spin the branch and have a try and provide feedback. And related to that PR, thanks Mike for providing feedback on the chat. The thing like side effect, I was just trying to update the snapshot through comments, and I guess it's due to the new security thing. The job is skipped, but maybe we can discuss that offline afterwards. But I have a question about should we relax the condition, like if the people doing the commenting is one of the maintainer, for instance, that has the chance to check the PR before triggering the comments. So maybe we could relax that. And so yeah, let's discuss about it. Or maybe there is something to fix in the latest version of the workflow. And then the second project is about trying to extract everything that's about building in a separate project from JupyterLab. So the Python command like build, develop, and watch are extracted now. The next step for the contributor is to work on some of the JavaScript assets, so extracting GLPM and also the builder, because one of the things that we are doing when we do the build or the watch is that we check that the builder has the proper matching version, and so to try to not be too much coupled with JupyterLab, we want to extract that, and it will be a chance also to work on one of the issue we get on JupyterLab. I think that Jeremy opens a while back to try to make the some part of the loading of the application generic so that it can be maintained and avoid copy pasting between Jupyter-based application. So that's stuff we're gonna try to address in that project. Yeah, so that's about the Google Summer of Code. And yeah, and I opened the PR also for discussion. So in Lumino, now we get the plugin registry that can be created independently of the application and then provided to the application. The goal is to be able to create plugins without the app, what JupyterLab is already using, but because of their need, they have basically two apps. So that will allow them to have only one app. And also it will allow some customization of the service manager or the default drive. There's been a discussion on a PR that Zach opened some months ago about that. So yeah, that's just to highlight that PR if people are interested to join the technical discussion. Yeah, I had also on my side discussion about security implication with Eric Charles, but yeah, I guess depends on the feedback of people on the PR. And that's
Thanks for putting up this PR. I was wondering, like, I was just looking at the diff. I don't think there are any breaking change, right? Or are there any that we should expect from this change?
No breaking change. The only constraint that's added is that any plugin we want to activate before we have spinned the application, the app object will be null. because the app object is set only once the plugin registry has been provided to the application and that it has been set within the plugin registry. So that's the only constraint. But as it's using the token relationship for activation, it means that anything that is provided by tokens will work, like if it's not the app itself. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, maybe I guess the answer is in the PR description, but yeah, last time you were saying that there would be two steps, right? One step where you have the service manager plugins registered and then the regular plugins. Or
Yes.
are all of the plugins registered together in one go?
They are registered together because registering doesn't require to know the application. It's just activation that requires it.
Yeah, with the change from Lumino, right?
So everything is registered, and then we instantiate the service manager, and we provide everything to the app. So this line has been moved before, like. So yeah, that's the change. Like we register everything, and we get some services before creating the application.
Nick says in the chat that for Light, not sure if we would unify the two apps. Why not? Because I think with this change, we should be good to go to have only one app, right? Because then we could just have, for example, the contents manager, which is currently just a server app for Light, be a regular JupyterLab plugin.
Yeah, I don't know. Breaking up the architecture to fully merge the two things together, I'm not sure, or rather unifying the architecture to make the two things the same thing so you're only creating Jupyter front-end plugins, would prevent us from ever making any other architectural changes in the future, right? Like once you are relying on your server accessing the DOM, your fake server, then we can never, like for example, we could get to a point where you had Notebook where the file tree and subsequent pages for it shared the same server. And that would have a lot of nice advantages rather than relying on IndexedDB. This is kind of out of scope for Light. I mean, like, great. I'm glad we've got some more switches to throw. It's just in that specific case, I'm not entirely sold that we fully want to embed that concept. Yeah. There is no Jupyter Light meeting. Sorry, everybody. I do want to say though, I just got a really silly. I got a really silly demo up that somehow works in Light, and if you want to check it out, it's not super broken today. I found that 4.2 is not very good at big widgets. It freaks out and sometimes just white screens me. And I didn't realize that that was not my widget. I thought it was just my bad widget. But I loaded up in that Jupyter Light and it never screws up. And that's still against the 4.1 line. And I can only assume this is related to the virtual rendering because these are huge. Like each of these widgets are, 80 VHs. And it just drops them on the floor. And then because they're iframes, when they come back into scope, they like reload, and they're really expensive iframes, and it just like hammers everything. I don't know. I'm trying some more isolation stuff, but I don't know virtual rendering. I don't know about you. That is all. Sorry for the tirade.
This is a good point. I also saw that Mist extension has lots of problems. So it was what I would like to ideally explore is to rewrite the way we hide cells so that they are never detached. But this is like a different set of trade-offs and different set of implementation details for markdown cells and code cells. Definitely something we can explore and improve, and feedback on that is really helpful, especially like if you can create a simple reproducible example that could be included in tests.
It's not. I mean, these are not simple. Nothing involving widgets is ever going to be simple if you're moving stuff out of the DOM. They really want, and if it's an iframe, then it goes twice crazy. So I don't know. Sorry, that's just reports from the field.
So back to the this service manager as a plugin. I think some people were asking, being able to have some more like hybrid JupyterLab setup where you could have in-browser kernels and regular kernels. And it looks like with this change, that should be possible because in this case, you could just implement your own kernel manager or session manager and just provide it as a plugin, right? That would swap to the logic between, going to the browser or to the regular kernels. But there might be some tricky, yeah.
Basically, we have done it in data layer. We have done like a multiplexer service manager, let's call it like that you can choose between browser or server kernels. And basically, I could use everything from JupyterLab if I did my own plugins. So I had to duplicate all the plugins just to make them regular JupyterLab plugins so that I can load them in the same application. But
So you did it.
In the specific case of kernels, I would still come down on the side of using an identifier rather than some out-of-band thing. Doing it off the kernel name, but that's just me. Because if every different hybrid application handles alternate kernel launching in a different way, then nothing's going to work with all of those. And everyone's going to have to rewrite everything all the time for everyone's special service manager versus, hey, I'm going to register for light : / right? Like, but that's just me.
That's one of the discussion we had with Eric. That's one of the trouble of opening that box.
I mean, your money example out there is like the SQL Alchemy connect string. That'll do everything. It does it can connect to Oracle databases and Firebase bases and SQL servers and SQLites and in-memory SQLites, and because it's a URI and everyone agrees on how to parse it. So, yeah.
So when you said that you were duplicating all of the JupyterLite plugins, you meant the ones that are, server plugins at the moment, like for managing kernels. Okay.
Yeah, basically you need,
cool.
If you want to go that route, you need to do that, and then you need to rework the session dialog. That's something like the switch between kernels and starting new kernels and stuff like that. But basically, that's possible.
And that was also using the draft PR in the JupyterLab repo?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was a bit more dirty, but because it was not needed, it was possible to do it in another, like using the classical thing. That's why, I mean, if that draft PR is merged, it will make things cleaner. But it's like that's why I had to duplicate lots of the server plugin from JupyterLab to be able to plug them in the application right now. But yeah, that's that was for the test.
Okay, no problem. It looks like we are pretty close then. That was what I was wondering about.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we are very close.
Okay, so just because we're running a little bit on time, let's is it okay to move toward to Andrew now?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, yes, thank you for this. So I wanted to let me quickly open the notes. Okay, so that's this PR. And it's a small one-line change. Link is in the chat, and it just removes one CSS rule, which will change the background of the plugin list in the settings editor. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed it with Mike that it would be nice for this to go into an alpha version for users to test this. Some time ago, we didn't have like 100% alignment on this like design change, so this would be something useful. So I had a E2E or like Galata visual integration tests failing and related to the PR. I've seen Fred just force pushed it and it became green without being green before it. So I don't know, Fred, if you can give me an advice, what have you done? Would love to hear it. Other than that, the PR has already one approval by Jason. I would love more eyes on it. Mike, if you could give it a look, another, once more, that would be nice. So yeah, that's all I wanted. Thank you.
So just to answer your question, Andre, I think there is no snapshot test of the plugin editor. So basically, you are having those snapshots in your PR that were noisy, as you said on the PR. So basically, I rebased your PR, dropping all snapshot changes and just keeping the CSS change, and then pushed, and everything was great.
You haven't done, okay, because I've done that before trying to update snapshots, like launching the workflow manually or with comments. So when I was just doing the same, it would still give me CI errors, right? So that's why I even started updating the snapshots, started trying to update the snapshots. Interesting. So probably just flaky and, you had a good luck. Well, I see. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mike, do you think you could give this another look?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, I think that wraps up the recorded portion of the meeting. The agenda items have all been covered. So I'm going to stop the recording.